Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode.
In today's episode, in Team Season Preview 4 out of 32, I am joined by Minnesota Vikings fan John Macdonald as we preview the team's upcoming season. John gives his thoughts on the Vikings off-season, including Sam Darnold's departure.
To be honest, at the money he's getting out there, I'm happy to see him go.
John tells me about his upcoming charity cycle ride in preparation for the international series.
And then this year, I've decided to do one better and cycle from Croke Park to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the week between the games.
And John gives his overall season record prediction in our win-loss-tie section. Hope you guys enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and here today for Team 4 out of 32 in our 2025 season preview episodes. And this team today is the Minnesota Vikings. Now, we're having a bit of a throwback episode because we are doing this right now in my old bedroom, which was, for many years on this podcast until a year ago, was the backdrop of all my episodes I did in the podcast the first 3-4 years. So today and the next episode, hopefully, will be recorded tomorrow morning. Should be in a bit of a backdrop, bit of a old school throwback episode to yesteryear. But let's bring on a guest. He is a returning guest. He came on for last year's season preview. Back with us today is Vikings fan John Macdonald. John, how are you? How are things?
I'm good, thank you, Andy. Thank you very much for having me back.
Absolutely, and since we actually had a podcast last year, the first time I met you on Zoom or StreamYard, I actually met you in person at the London. I forget what it was. The Outernet experience.
Outernet. That. I was trying to think of what they called it. It was cool up there. Really cool.
Yeah, that was an incredible experience. So that was such a well-made thing, and that building itself is just incredible, and one of the best inventions I've seen lately in London. We of course are doing today a 2025 Minnesota Vikings season preview. Of course, last year went 14-3, broke an unwanted record of the most wins for a team in a regular season to not win their division. Of course, the Detroit Lions having a remarkable 15-2 season. But the Vikings have made some adjustments in this offseason to try and address this issue. So their ins and re-signings include the likes of Aaron Jones, Byron Murphy, Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Javon Hargrave, Jeff Okudah, Jonathan Allen, Rondale Moore, Harrison Smith, Jordan Mason, and then the main outs include last year's surprise story Sam Darnold, as well as Cameron Bynum, Daniel Jones, Nick Mullins, Cam Robinson, Stephon Gilmore, Cam Akers, Shaquille Griffin, Camu Grugier-Hill, Fabian Moreau, as well as Garrett Bradbury, and many more. And in the draft, you only had 5 draft picks. A lot of picks traded away this offseason, but you took the first 3 taken were Donovan Jackson, the guard, 26th overall, receiver Ty Felton, 102nd overall, and then defensive tackle, 139th overall in Tyrion Ingram Dawkins. John, for you overall, what was your take been on the offseason as a whole for your Vikings?
Well, Kevin O'Connell had been very open at the end of the season saying on what area we needed to improve. It was on that offensive line because towards the end of the season, that looked absolutely shocking. Yeah, we lost Christian Darrisaw in the Rams game, and he's one of the top in the league, his position in the league. We managed to patch over it, but the line's not been good for a number of years now. So it's good that they beefed it up. We've lost a few in the backfield, but yeah, overall, with what the picks we had left in the draft after a few trades over the last couple of years, we bit the bullet this year. Didn't really trade away much, and we just sucked it up. And we're like, right, this year will just be a suck it up, and we'll carry on and not gamble away with the future.
Yeah, I mean, we were surprised by the Sam Darnold sort of not keeping him on. I mean, we'll get into McCarthy in a bit, but for a guy who had such a good year, I know. Obviously, the last 2 games weren't great, but obviously made the move to Seattle, $100 million contract. Was there any part of you that was maybe wanted to see him stay for another year, or are you fully happy with having JJ McCarthy, as a starter? What was your views on Sam Darnold's departure?
To be honest, at the money he's getting out there, I'm happy to see him go. For years, the Vikings were hamstrung by a big contracted QB in Kirk Cousins who really underperformed, and the plan was always going with JJ McCarthy. Always. That was KOC's plan. And what that man can do with average QBs, what have been seen to be average QBs in the league, when you see him say, I like this guy, because he's known in the Minnesota Vikings organization as a QB killer. He's known as a QB killer. When they go with him, oh, do you want to draft this? No, I don't like him. I don't like him. He likes JJ McCarthy. If a coach can get what he got out of Sam Darnold and countless others before him, I think this guy must have something special about him.
Well, that is a good segue into our first question. And the question I planned has actually been asked by our previous guest. So our last episode had Jeff Reinbold come on the show. And his question to our next guest, which is you, John, was that basically asking you for what is your thoughts on JJ McCarthy, and can he be the guy to help you get over the hump and beat the Lions to the NFC North this year?
The thing is, it's set up for a QB to walk into our room, and we've increased our offensive line. We've got decent running backs now. We've brought in Jordan Mason from the 49ers, who done really well last year. Aaron Jones, inexperience back there. The offensive line's been boosted. We've got TJ Hawkinson coming back. He didn't really get up to speed last year after coming off the injury. And then you've got Addison, who will serve a suspension, I suspect, during the season, at the beginning of the season, for his naughtiness during the offseason last year. But then you've got probably one of the best players in the league in Justin Jefferson. I mean, if a QB can't do well in that environment, I don't think he's cut out to be in the NFL.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is exactly what I've been saying before when we talked about it on our QB rankings, is that one of the things we first I want to say first of all that I don't think the NFC North should be the target. I think for a rookie, I think if you can get a double-digit win season, I think that's, especially in such a tough division with 4 teams who all have a legitimate case to win that division, I think, just to if you get double win season and you most likely make the playoffs from that, I think that for me is a good season for a base gear rookie. He's a sophomore quarterback, but he's basically a rookie. I do feel like, that is, progress. And I think that is, when you can still make the playoffs, the wildcard team, and maybe, especially with Addison maybe missing some games to start, you may start slow. But at the same time, get into the playoffs, I think if you get him firing on all cylinders, then I think, that could be a good thing to have late on. But yeah, I think going back to what I was saying before, the main almost the main detractor from him was the fact that, he was at Michigan, he's with the best players, of course he's going to do well. Well, he's playing for the Vikings team that has a beefed up O-line, a head coach that is great with quarterbacks and O'Connell, arguably the best 1-2 tandem receivers in the league, and Jefferson Addison, certainly the best receiver in the league, and one of the best WR2s in Addison. Hawkinson's back, as you said. Defense is going to help win you games sometimes, because for obvious reasons, I'm a big Flores fan, and I think his defense is going to win you games, even if McCarthy struggles, particularly early on in the season. I think you could see the defense win the Vikings some games, like Andrew Van Ginkel and many other, Dallas Turner. I think you've got some good players there on defense, and we saw that with the start you had last year. I mean, the London game, 5-0. It's an amazing start to the season. I think we'll see that once again with the Vikings. But I think McCarthy is set up to do well. I mean, exactly what you said. If you can't do well with that, then when is he going to do well? And I think that's why we saw Sam Darnold have a career year last year. I mean, a guy who was criticised by many. Not much was expected of him going into the season, but turned it around and got 14 wins, and really, for me personally, should have got comeback player of the year, in my opinion. So I think McCarthy is absolutely set up to succeed, and I think he is primed for I think he is primed for what would be Rookie of the Year, but not for him. But I think certainly, I don't know whether they do come back Player of the Year for someone who's not played a single down yet in the NFL, but certainly I think for a great first season starting, I think he is set for. I think he's really set for a good season.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a tough schedule this year. The whole of the NFC North plays the AFC North, so we're not only playing the NFC North, which is arguably one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. We're probably playing one of probably the second toughest in the AFC North, which is well up there with the with some of those guys as well. So, but yeah, it's gonna be a tough year for us. But yeah, as you said earlier, I'm not expecting the world from him, but a double year win, a double numbered win would be happy for us. I'd settle for that, a double figured win season.
Well, we'll go into the schedule prediction later on, but look at some of the games you've got. I'm particularly looking at the quarterbacks you'll be facing this year. Going from week 1 to 18, you've got Caleb Williams. Then week 3, you've got the Bengals and Joe Burrow. I think Aaron Rodgers has got something in him still. So you've got him week 4. Eagles, Hurts week 7. Justin Herbert week 8. Jared Goff week 9. Lamar Jackson week 10. Williams again in week 11. Jordan Love in weeks 12 and 18. You've got Sam Darnold returning to Minnesota. Oh, sorry, they're hosting Minnesota. Sam Darnold, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Jared Goff again in week 17. So this really leads me to my second point, was about the Vikings secondary. I mean, the defense was great, at getting out quarterback, the defensive line and the blitz packaging always offers. But I think the secondary, for me, has to be a massive concern going into the season. And against those quarterbacks and receivers, Jamar Chase is playing against it, AJ Brown, Amara St. Brown, Lad McConkey, Derrick Henry running at you as well. I mean, it's a tough year for team in terms of that secondary. It's going to be a tough year for the Vikings to deal with that schedule.
Yeah, that's the only part of this roster that is really keeping me up at night. Is the secondary is not really up to snuff at the moment. I mean, we've really got they're either really old or really kind of green back there in our secondary, and it's we all know the way Flores likes to play. He likes to play high off the line and really get to the QB. A lot of pressure on that, but that doesn't help back in the secondary. And as you say, it is a hell of a lot of top QBs we will be facing this year, and wide receivers.
Yeah, that prospect is tough. It is tough, and I think that fair play. If you can get double-digit win season, like we were saying before, with those opponents, I think not only is that an achievement, a real good achievement in itself, but you think about the preparation that would give them for the playoffs. If they were to get 11 win season, you go into the playoffs and you've already faced all these great receivers and quarterbacks. I think that for the players that maybe are in that secondary that maybe have struggled previously or maybe are young, this is the perfect test of them. I think that you think about. I've been watching some of Man in the Arena recently, and how the Giants game against the Patriots in 2007 and 2011 both really prepped them for playing them because they already knew how they worked. So I think the Vikings have got it tough, and I think they we'll get into it in a minute, but we've got a couple of games on neutral sites, but it's going to be awfully tough, I think, for the Vikings against. But when you got Addison, you've got Jefferson, you've got Aaron Jones, you've got what we think is going to be a good quarterback this year, when you've got Hawkinson, you could probably win games even if the secondary struggles. And to get maybe a point where the defensive line is so dominant against the offensive line for the team, and it may be a point where they haven't even got a chance to throw the ball to these receivers because of how good the blitz package is, how good they saw how much they get at the quarterback. I think they'll be hoping in a way that the defense could be that good on the line that it can almost prevent the secondary needing to do as much work as maybe other teams would. So you never know; it could work out perfectly. So Now the Vikings. Before we get onto the schedule, the Vikings have 2 games in international waters this year. So they have a game week 4 against the Steelers in Dublin, and they have a game against the Browns the following week in London. Now, last year you came on, you did a charity walk to London, and this year you're going even harder. You're doing an even bigger challenge. You're going from Dublin to London by both games. Tell the audience a bit more about what you're doing, the reason why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, everything else. Let us know. Let us know what you got planned.
I'd say last year, one of our members, our charity lead, he walked from York all the way down to London. He walked from the Vikings Museum up there and down to London. And this year, I've decided to do one better and cycle from Croke Park to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the week between the games. So I'll be cycling from Croke Park to the Dublin ferry port, and then catching the ferry to Holyhead and cycling across North Wales, down through England, and to London into Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's going to be very exhausting. I'm hoping to do it in about 5 days. That's the plan. That's about 60-70 miles a day. Taking it at my own pace. In total, it's just over 600 k I'll be doing, but we're doing it for Mind this year. So anyone that wants to donate, it is just giving /page/ the purple pedal. I'll be doing it completely by myself, and anyone that wants to join me for any part of the journey, the journey is up on all of our social medias and everything like that. So across all the UK Vikings social media, it'll be up. So anyone that wants to join me for any part of that journey, you're more than welcome to. But it's a great cause, and it's a great thing to be doing.
I couldn't agree more. It's an amazing thing you're doing, and I remember when I saw the socials last year when your friend got to the finishing line at Tottenham. It was just a really nice video to watch, and it just, the community you had as well there. It was just an incredible moment, and I think, to do it again and doing it for even longer of a journey, my hat goes out to you. It really does. It's such an incredible thing you're doing. Yeah,
thank you very much. Thank you. It's a great cause, and we've got to do something then. But why not?
And we will put the link to the Just Giving page as well in the podcast description. So if you are listening to this or watching on YouTube, go click on the description on this episode, and there's your link to how to donate. And obviously, if you want to get involved, obviously John mentioned it then, the UK and Ireland Vikings fan club on Facebook and socials. Even if you're just a Vikings fan who wants to be part of the Vikings fan club, then I couldn't recommend more sending you John's way and what you guys do and what the Vikings are doing for the UK at the moment. It's a good time to get involved. So we're heading on to our final section of the episode, which is going to be our win, loss, tie section. For those of you that aren't familiar by now, each family comes on, we go through each game, and they'll predict with each game with the answer of a win, loss, tie section. Now, John, you were on a year ago. Now, the Vikings, as I said before, had a 14-3 record. Do you remember by chance what your prediction was 12 months ago?
I think it was 9-8. It was 9-8. I picked us just having a winning season.
It was actually 8-9.
8-9. I was like, it's just having a winning season, or just having. I knew it was one way or other. Yeah.
But either way, I bet you weren't expecting that at all to have, not only 14 wins but also 14 donuts in those 3 months.
Yes.
For those who haven't seen John's socials, he does eat a donut whenever the Vikings win a game. So I don't think his cholesterol was done any favors this year by the Vikings doing well.
No.
Like a 3-win team, you might have been quite a healthy few months for you. But it's as a big donut fan myself, love to see it. So yeah, let's head on to week 1, which, as I said before, is against the Bears. It's on the road in Soldier Field. John, win, loss, or tie?
For this, I'm going with a win. We've both improved on our own shocking own lines from last year, but I think the Vikings just have a bit too much for the Bears there.
Okay, so week 2, before I forget, we have done our Bears preview already. So if you are a Bears fan, or just an NFL fan in general who wants to listen to it, team 2 out of 32 was the Bears, so check that one out. Week 2 is your first home game of the season, and this comes in the form of a game against the Atlanta Falcons. John, win, lose, or tie?
I've got us down for another win here. Last year, we probably played our best game of the season against the Falcons, where I don't know if anyone's seen it, but they completely forgot to mark Jefferson for one of those touchdowns and completely lost him in the backfield. Don't know how you can lose a man like Justin Jefferson, but yeah, I've got us for a win here, win against them.
So then your next game is your last game on American soil until week 7. It's a home game against Joe Burrow, star of the Netflix series Quarterback, and the Cincinnati Bengals.
This is our first loss of the season. I think our secondary is just going to struggle too much there. Although their secondary is not that great, their defense is not that great, I think they're just going to pip us there.
I think this could be one of the games of the season, certainly the early parts of the season, because I do think the Bengals in week 3, I mentioned it before in the previous episode, but the Bengals in week 3 compared to Bengals in week 15 is two different teams, it feels like recently. The Joe Burrow era has been defined by slow starts and strong finishes, which, we saw last year. I think if they got to the playoffs, they would have been definitely one of the teams you don't want to face. And I think this game is going to be, you've got two bad secondaries. You've got the two best, for me personally, the two best receivers in the game right now, in Jefferson and Chase. I think you got T. Higgins, Jordan Addison. You've got Chase Brown, maybe not as much, but Aaron Jones. You got a new DC in Cincinnati. This could be, he could be a guy to change that defense. So I think this could be generally like a 38-35 or something like that. I do feel this game could be a bit of an offensive shootout.
I was going to say, if you like points being scored, that is definitely a game you're going to be wanting to watch.
Next up is one of your games against the AFC North teams, and it comes up against one of your former quarterback nemesis and Aaron Rodgers in the Pittsburgh Steelers and in Dublin. Win, loss, or tie?
I've got us beating Aaron Rodgers even, sorry. I've got us beating Aaron Rodgers again on an international game. Maybe another pick 6, Aaron? Maybe you're going to give the Vikings another pick 6, but yeah, the Vikings are undefeated on international soil at the moment. So I think we continue that way.
And it's also a repeat of the 2013 game in London they played against each other, where you saw Jared Allen having one of the best moments in London game history. It's an amazing stat, actually, that they've got unbeaten because, it's just for a team that hasn't won any Super Bowls, sorry to bring it up, and hasn't done much really the last few years in terms of going far in the playoffs, apart from the Minneapolis Miracle season. It's amazing to think that they have been so good in London, and with the whole increase in Vikings UK interaction with players coming down to visit, and more games, 2 games in Europe this year alone, the Vikings, are definitely a team that I think a lot of fans can definitely get behind in the UK, especially with one of the best players in the league. So week 5, it looks like it's the first time this has happened. Back-to-back weeks in London, who are not the Jags. You're facing the Browns in London, technically a road game against the Cleveland Browns, in London, in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. John, win, loss, or tie?
I've got us with another win here. Again, this is the team that we have faced again internationally. It is a repeat of a game that we played, and it was actually the last Browns international game that they played against us. So, that was played out back when they done it out at Twickenham, which was, for anyone who went to those games, it's a lovely stadium, but a nightmare to get to, especially from central London. But it was a good game, and I've got us to get in the win here against the Browns. I mean, as nicely as you can put it, that organisation isn't in a great place at the moment. They've got 5 QBs, and none of them seem to be really starter worthy, do they?
I'm giving a little bit of it. I kind of feel like I do think the standards could prove people wrong. I could be wrong here, and I certainly think if you had a spare £5 to bet, I think £5 on offensive rookie of the year being Shedeur Sanders is not a bad bet to make. I just feel like even though he's probably the fifth right now, he's not even in the top 4 depth chart on ESPN. But I feel like whether it's Pickett, Flacco, the guy Dylan Gabriel, or Deshaun Watson, obviously who's injured, I just feel like he could prove people wrong. Now, it's a very wild statement to make, and I feel like as someone who doesn't watch college football, I'm probably not the best person to talk about college players going into the NFL, but I just feel like I've seen clips of the players getting on well with him, and I know Gardner Minshew gets on well with players, and he's not great, but I don't know. I've got this hunch that he's going to prove everyone wrong and actually have a good career, whether it's with the Browns or someone else. It wouldn't shock me actually if they do. There's rumours that they're going to potentially hire Deion Sanders in a few years as head coach, and Schottenheimer's just a stopgap if he's not playing for the Browns, and he's already coached him in college. Dak Prescott's not getting any younger. I don't know. I feel like Shedeur Sanders could be a surprise. 5th round as well. He's got a chip on his shoulder even more than he already had. He's going to be determined to prove everyone wrong. But then the driving stuff recently, the speeding offence, maybe he's going to be another Johnny Manziel. Who knows? But I don't know. I have this feeling that he's going to prove everyone wrong. But don't know. That could be a massive assumption. Week 6, though, you got a bye week. So week 7 is probably the hardest game of the year. One of the hardest games, at least. You're at home to the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, I don't give us much hope against the Eagles here. I mean, they were completely dominant all last season. I mean, anyone that had watched them last season knew what the outcome of that Super Bowl was going to be. Anyone that sat down and watched that team play knew that the Eagles were going to go out there and completely dominate, and they are one of the best teams in the league. And I don't see us getting a win here. That's Eagles completely dominating us there.
You never know, though. You could be the Madden could come to Saquon Barkley this year, so you never know. You could find him in a Super Bowl hangover. You could win that game. You never know. Week 8 is your first of back-to-back road games. This one is against Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, this will be a close game. Where my mind, depending on how both lines are looking at that point, because by this time in the season, you should be able to see where the winners and losers are coming from, who are the teams to look out for. But I see the Vikings just scraping a win here.
Okay, so you're 5-2 going into week 9, and that is a road game at Ford Field against the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, the Lions. When you say our schedule is stacked, the Lions' schedule is absolutely horrendous, and I see them being beaten up a lot. But I don't see us having enough to go against them. I mean, the Lions have lost key coordinators in the off season, but I still see them just pipping us here.
Yeah, we've got the Lions coming up in a few weeks, but you think about, I'm looking now at their schedule. I want to plug out Gridiron Magazine. I've got their 2025 season preview, so anyone who wants a good read and a good season preview, that is where a good place to start. But looking at their schedule in the magazine, their first literally 7 weeks before their week 8 bye, they've got to play Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Lamar Jackson, week 4 Browns, fair enough. But then you've got Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield. That is a tough start for a team that's lost coordinators, the main 2 coordinators. That is a tough older schedule there for the Lions.
Yeah, especially you just look at I think most of those top QBs are on the road as well. So it's really not something. I don't think the Lions are going to retain this division this year. That's my hot take of the year.
Fair. So week 10 is a home game against the Baltimore Ravens.
Now, this is a very interesting game because the Vikings have only ever played the Ravens 7 times in the regular season.
Really?
Any time the Vikings have played the Ravens, if the Vikings win, we make it to the NFC Championship game. If we lose, the Vikings head coach gets fired. Every time that happens. So I don't see KOC getting fired after winning Coach of the Year last year. So I've got us down for a win here. It's going to be a tough game. I'm not going to lie, but I see us squeaking out a win here.
Interesting. Week 11 is a game, your second out of the 2 against the Chicago Bears, but this time you're at home. John, win, loss, or tie?
I've got us taking the win here, yeah. By this time, I think the Bears will have revealed themselves to be the Bears. And I see us just comfortably beating the Bears here.
Okay, so then week 12 is a road game. It looks like this might be Thanksgiving, but I could be wrong. You're at the Packers.
Yeah, we're at the Packers, and I see this as a loss. This is at Lambeau Field, which I think will be the deciding factor in this game. It's one of the toughest environments to go into, especially as a divisional rival. But yeah, I see us losing this game. The Packers get the win.
Okay, so in week 13, you're facing your former quarterback. You're on the road to the Seattle Seahawks. John, win, loss, or tie?
I'm going to take the win here. I don't think the Seahawks have put Sam Darnold in a great position. Certainly nowhere near as good as a position he was in last year. He's not got a lot around him. They seem to have got rid of a lot of the weapons. I mean, they brought in a few, but are they upgrades? Not really, I don't think. And the line out there kind of scares me as well. But mate, I don't want people to say Sam Darnold was a one-season wonder if he goes out to Seattle and fails in his first year, because what he done last year cannot just be pulled off in one season. It was a brilliant season, and I just don't think that he's got enough weapons or the environment out there to help him.
Yeah, I feel the same as you. I fear for massively. I think he was in a good situation. Everything I was saying before as to why I think McCarthy will succeed. And I just feel like, you go into a worse coach, worse weapons, worse defense. Maybe that could be level, but the O-line's not as good. Yeah, it's probably an easier division, the NFC West and the NFC North, but no, certainly, I'm not looking at that sort of. I think, one season wonder could be where he's at personally. Week 14, though, is against last year's surprise story at home to the Washington Commanders.
Although I think Daniels will have a bit of a sophomore slump this year, I think the Washington have gone about it in the right way and strengthening the right positions in this offseason to make sure he's supported the best way they can. So I've got them actually taking the win here. But although I see him not getting to the level he was last year, I think Washington do take the win against us.
Okay, so then week 15, you're playing a road game against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, this is when you want to start playing the Cowboys, when they're started to be beaten up and everything like that. Their roster's pretty thin at the moment. Last time I checked, it's not really past the main roster. Once you get to this time of year, you're kind of looking at your backup players, and I don't think they've got great stuff out there. And I see the Vikings picking up the win here.
Okay, so then week 16 is your final road game of the regular season, and that is a road game at MetLife Stadium against the New York Giants.
Yeah, the Giants are very much in a rebuild at the moment. there's nothing great going. I mean, they've got a few really great pieces out there, and if they get it all together, it'll be brilliant. But I don't think Russell Wilson's got much left in him at the moment, and I see the Vikings getting the win here.
So then week 17 is your penultimate home game of the regular season. It is a home game against the Detroit Lions. John, win, loss or tie?
I've got the Lions doing the double over this year. I've got us losing here. By this point, I think the Lions would have sorted out their early season quibbles and really get back to what we know the Lions are. It's going to take a little while to work out the kinks. So after you lose top coordinators, as they have done this off-season, it's going to take a little while to work everything out. But I think by this point in the season, they'll have worked out and they'll be back to firing on all cylinders.
Okay, so then the final game of the season is another home game. Your final home game of the regular season. You'll be hoping for more than just that. Maybe another home game in the playoffs. But either way, week 18, you're hosting the Green Bay Packers. John, for the final time this episode, win, loss or tie?
This is a tough one because I see this being for the division. I think the Lions would have started too slowly and will be playing catch up. And I think Green Bay and the Vikings will be fighting for the division. And the only thing that's swaying me in this is a home game for us. And that place, when it's a big game, especially against Green Bay, that place is electric. And I see us just squeaking the win here because the Vikings fans will get behind it. And I think they'll be the driving force here.
Great. So in the end, judging by your predictions, you're going to finish with a 11-6 record, which would more than likely 9 times out of 10 would get you in the playoffs. If that was to be the case, how far do you think the Vikings can go in the postseason?
I would hope for one win. All I would hope if we get there, I just hope for just a playoff win. Playoff win in the wild card would make me happy. I mean, obviously everyone wants to win the Super Bowl, but I'm being realistic here. We've got but what is basically a rookie QB coming in here. We can't be expecting him to do great things. If we make the playoffs, that's brilliant. If we get a win, that's absolutely superb. But yeah, I'll be happy to just be in the competition.
Yeah, you've got to be in it to win it, haven't you? Just to be involved in it is, a good start to make. So earlier on, before we do end the show, earlier on we did have Jeff Reinbold's question answered by you, John. He was our last guest on our Raiders season preview. So now it's your turn to ask our next guest a question. Now, this could be Vikings related, non-Vikings related, but it has to be NFL related. So for our next guest, what is your question to them?
With Australia joining the NFL international games next season, where do you see the NFL moving to next? What country do you see the NFL moving towards next?
That is, from an international point of view, international fan base, majority of the audience are on this podcast. That is a good question. So I'm looking forward to asking our next guest who, if they do come on to the recording, they're not from the UK. So it'll be interesting to see what their answer is, if they're the ones that are next on. So looking forward to that. But in the meantime, this is where we will end today's episode, our Minnesota Vikings 2025 season preview. John, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much for letting me say my spiel about the Just Giving page and everything like that and my charity drive. And thank you very much for letting me talk Vikings football.
Well, pleasure to have you on, as always. Like last year was a good episode. This one's been good again. And we will, once again, like last year, put all the details of the Just Giving page in the podcast description. So make sure to check that one out. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our Minnesota Vikings 2025 season preview. I have been, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, and our guest today has been John Macdonald. And we will see you guys for our next team season preview. See you then.